CD 10.
This is how you know she loves you, added Honor, because babies are universally ugly. Except for your father. Lydia's lips tightened. It wasn't a smile, but it was something, an emotion other than fear. When people ask me who I am, said Jo, I tell them I'm just a mother. And that's true, but you know what? It's not true, too. I'm not just a mother, I'm your mother. And I'm Oscar's and Iris's mother. And having you and loving you has been the most important and wonderful thing in my life. You are so precious to me, Lydia. Nothing and nobody could ever replace you. Never. And you might think that isn't much to be, but to me, you are my everything. She was entirely focused on Lydia. Lydia's hair as it blew, light as gossamer, Lydia's skirt ruffling, the rapid pulse that beat in Lydia's neck. Lydia's eyes, hazel, the same as Stephen's, with the long lashes, staring out over the void. Look at me, Jo thought with every fibre of her being. Look at me. See how much I love you. See how precious you are. Look at me and leave this bridge and come home. Daddy was right here when he fell, said Lydia. Right here where we're standing now. I always thought that Daddy could fly. Don't fall, said Jo. She wanted to reach out for Lydia, to take her hand, to hold her, but she didn't dare. Don't fall, Lydia. We would miss you. Lydia closed her eyes. Jo tensed, certain she was about to jump, ready to try to catch her, grab her hand, snag her jumper, anything. She would jump with her if she had to, tangle their bodies together to try to get underneath her to break her fall, because she could not watch her child die. She could carry on after anything else, but not that. Lydia, she whispered, and the name was blown away from her. Lydia opened her eyes. She looked at Jo. Okay, she said. Okay. I won't do it. I love you too. She reached out her hand to Jo, and Jo leaned over and hugged her, one-armed, their foreheads together. I love you so much, whispered Jo. Please, let's get off this bridge. Lydia nodded. Jo helped her turn around, and she saw Lydia's damp palms slipping on the railing. Her grip looked fragile, and she was still shaking, breathing hard in little sobs. Jo steadied her as she lifted her leg to climb over. Lydia, on tiptoe on the ledge, impossibly slender, poised above the drop, for a moment held there only by the thinnest pull of gravity. Then Lydia swung herself over and into her grandmother's arms. Jo breathed out a shuddering sigh of relief. She closed her eyes, tried to process it, to believe it. Her daughter was safe. Oh, Stephen, she thought, balanced above where Stephen had died. I've saved her. She's all right. Out of nothing, the train came. An explosion below them, a wind and a rush, a streak of black and yellow shaking the bridge. Jo started, her foot slipped on the ledge, her hand scrabbled for the railing and missed it. And then Jo fell. Chapter 40. Lydia. I think about it all the time. I wasn't there, but I know this was how it happened. Dad could run forever and ever, and nothing could stop him. He had long strides, a beautiful rhythm. You only had to look at him to know that he could do anything. When he stood on that bridge next to that man, near the place where they later put that plaque to his memory, he didn't feel any fear. He stood on the ledge. It's a little ledge, I've seen it, about 4 or 5 inches wide. And he looked out into clear air. From that high you must feel as if you could take off and fly. Spread your arms and soar like a paper crane. He wasn't afraid. He was confident, sure-footed, full of power and grace. He was saving someone's life, a stranger's life. And when he stepped off that ledge, running in air, he must have known what it felt like to be free. Chapter 41. Lydia. The train passed below like a scream. Lydia grabbed for her mother, and her hand closed around some material. Mum's sleeve. Mum was falling. Her body slid down, and Lydia got a grip on her arm. Mum's hand grabbed her wrist, the two of them holding on to each other. Mum's feet kicked in the air. Her face looked up into Lydia's, green eyes wide, mouth in an O of shock. "Mum!" Lydia gasped. Or maybe she didn't have time to gasp, but thought it, and felt herself tipping over, pulled over the railing by gravity and her mother's body. Her feet off the pavement, her body tilted, the railing digging into her stomach. She wasn't strong enough. They were both going over, together, daughter and wife, in the same place where Stephen Levinson had died, just seconds after Lydia had decided not to jump after all. The train thundered below them. Then arms went around Lydia's waist from behind, thin but strong as bone. "No," muttered Granny Honor in her ear, and Lydia knew that she was trying to hold her back. But Lydia's hand was sweating, it was slippery. She could feel her grip giving way on her mother's arm, feel her weight teetering forward. And Granny H was so old. "Let me go." She couldn't hear her mother, but she could see her lips moving. Saw and felt her hand open so that she wasn't pulling Lydia down. Lydia shook her head and she held on tighter, pulling back as hard as she could into her grandmother's arms. A blur of fluorescent yellow beside her. Arms, more arms, reaching over her and around her. A man leaned his entire body almost over the wall, part of some human chain, seizing Mum under her arms and hauling her upwards. Hands pulled Lydia too. She heard shouting, suddenly loud in the silence left behind by the train passing. "Let go," someone yelled in her ear. "She's safe. Let her go." Lydia didn't let Mum go. The railing scraped hard against her elbow, tearing her skin, and then she was on the pavement on the bridge, and Mum was too. Shaking, sobbing, unable to catch her breath, in the flashing lights from the police cars and ambulance and surrounded by people, she finally let go of her mother's arm, her hand screaming with pain. She knelt there on the ground and fell into her mother, crying into her neck, hearing her breathing, feeling her stroking her hair, just like she used to when she was a little girl. "It's all right," Mum whispered. "It's all right." Chapter 42. Honor. Honor had broken her wrist. She had felt it happening, felt the snap when she was holding on to Lydia, but she didn't feel any pain until she got to the hospital. One of the paramedics put a splint on it at the scene. "Which one was trying to jump, then?" he asked her conversationally. "None of your business," Honor told him. In the ambulance, she sat beside Lydia and Joe. She held Lydia's hand with her good one. No one said anything. For Honor, it had been a confusion of sound. She'd heard Lydia agree not to jump as the train approached. She hadn't seen Joe slip, but she had felt it somehow. Through the skin of the bridge, or the way Lydia suddenly lurched next to her. She had thrown her arms around Lydia and heard her struggling, the panting of her breath. She'd heard the cars pulling up behind them, the shouts of the police and paramedics. The train she had seen. A streak of black and sunshine yellow in the bottom of her vision, travelling oblivious onward. When they reached A&E, Lydia was taken off almost immediately, and Joe went with her. Honor's pocket buzzed and beeped, and she pulled out Joe's phone, forgotten in her pocket since she had rung 999. "Excuse me," she said to the man sitting in the waiting room next to her, who appeared to have a swathe of white bandages wrapped round his head. "Can you see whom this message is from?" He took the phone in his rough hand.
"Marcus,"
he said.
"there are a few of them. Want me to read them to you?"
"No. Would you please find Richard in the contacts and ring him for me?" The man swiped the screen a few times and gave the phone back to her. Richard picked up on the 9th ring.
"Joe,"
he said.
"I'm in the middle of something. What is it?"
"It's not Joe. It's Honor Levinson."
"Honor."
Richard had never liked her. He probably liked her even less now, if his fiancée had told him what she'd said to her. Honor did not care. "You will need to extricate yourself in the middle of whatever it is you are doing, because you have to pick up your children from nursery."
"What? Why? Joe's got them today."
"Joe's had an accident. She's fine, but she needs you to act on your responsibilities." For once, she didn't add.
"An accident? What? Where is she?"
"In hospital. She won't be in for long, but the children are only in nursery until noon. You need to pick them up and take them to your house. It's the Little Bear nursery."
"But I'm—"
Honor did not reply. Richard seemed to sense her frown even down the phone, because when he spoke again he sounded bewildered rather than aggrieved.
"Where's the Little Bear nursery?"
"You're their father. You've got Google. You figure it out," said Honor, and rang off. A nurse brought her through to a curtained cubicle with a narrow bed. Honor accepted painkillers. "It's probably broken," said the nurse cheerfully, "but it might just be sprained." "It's broken," Honor told her. "I heard it. I've got a touch of osteoporosis."
"Have you got a touch of AMD as well?"
"AMD?
Age-related macular degeneration. Bit of poor eyesight, especially in the middle. My mum's got it. She looks out of the corner of her eyes like you. My brother's an optometrist. There are things you can do to slow it down, you know. It's irreversible, but there are lots of ways to help. There's a leaflet around here somewhere. I'll find it for you."
"Thank you," said Honor. "You are very observant."
Mum finds that she notices sounds more. And smells, too. Sometimes I swear she has a sixth sense now that her eyesight has started to go. She rings me when I've had a rotten day. It's as if she knows.
"I don't believe in sixth senses."
"Maybe it's just a mother thing, then. Anyway, Dr. Levinson, I'll find someone to take you up to X-ray."
Honor leaned her head back against the paper-covered pillow and closed her eyes. In the darkness, she saw Stephen, as clear as he had ever been in life. "We saved her," she whispered to him. And she didn't believe in sixth senses, but she saw him nodding. She saw him smile. Chapter 43. Joe. Joe sat in a hard chair outside the consulting room, holding a plastic cup full of tea that she did not want. Her shoulder throbbed, and her whole body ached, despite the painkillers she'd taken. Inside, someone from Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services was talking with Lydia. They'd asked Joe to wait outside, maybe go for a cup of tea in the canteen. And whilst Joe understood the reason, understood it was to make sure that Lydia wasn't hampered in discussing anything by the presence of her family, it brought home to her the weight of what had happened. In the emotion, in the adrenaline rush of trying to save Lydia, and then being saved herself, she'd been able to forget that this crisis wasn't the work of a day or two. It was months, years, during which Lydia had been suffering, and she had been looking the other way. Lydia had tried to commit suicide. The people in that room with her were trying to determine whether she was likely to do it again, and whether she would be allowed to go home. The fate of her own child was utterly out of her hands. They'd been in hospital for hours. Joe had sent Honor home in a cab, her arm in a cast. Apparently she had arranged for Richard to pick up Oscar and Iris. A phone call had confirmed it. Richard had wanted to know what was happening, but Joe had said she'd explain later. It was difficult enough for her to deal with everything that was in her head, without subjecting it to Richard's scrutiny. Honor would have told him all he needed to know, and probably added a few choice words in Russian for his girlfriend. Jo smiled despite herself. They had saved Lydia. She and Honor together. And then Lydia and Honor had saved her. Whatever happened, that was something. Where there's life, there's hope, her mother used to say, crippled with MS. Yet with her body aching, her daughter behind yet another closed door, she couldn't convince herself that everything was going to be all right. Or that it wasn't all her own fault that child and adolescent mental health services were interviewing Lydia right now. She'd never even noticed that her own daughter was gay. Or that she was in love with her best friend, the same best friend who spent huge amounts of time under Jo's roof. She'd known nothing about the bullying. She got up and put the full cup of tea in the bin. Lydia had shut her out, yes, but she had been too busy to notice the reasons why. Too busy looking on the bright side, getting remarried, having children, having an affair. She'd thought she'd been trying her best as a mother, doing everything she could for her children, but from Lydia's point of view, she was needy, small and desperate. What had she thought she was doing? Jo, said someone, and even before she consciously recognised who it was, her heart made a great thump of gladness and relief. Marcus was standing there in the corridor, in shirt sleeves and a tie, car keys in his hand. He opened his arms to her, and she went straight into them, resting her head against his chest, and as he held her tight, she realised for the first time what she had been doing. She had been falling in love. That was what she'd been busy doing, while her daughter was going through hell. Not having an affair, not carrying on with the neighbour, not using a younger man for his body. Falling in love. Marcus tilted up her chin. Are you all right? How did you know we were here? We heard that something happened with Lydia at the bridge. Is she hurt? Are you hurt? Why do you have your arm in a sling? Lydia was... She thought she wanted to jump off. It's the same place where her father died. He tightened his hold on her. But she's okay. She's all right. I mean, physically. She's all right. His scent, the grey-blue of his eyes, the way his hair curled against his neck, the way her body fitted into his, the way he was looking at her. Why hadn't she noticed the meaning of this either? What's the sling for? I was on the bridge with her. On the ledge. I fell off, but she caught me. Marcus's face went white. You fell? She caught me. And Honor caught her. And then the police were there. She touched his cheek. He looked frightened to death. We're all alive. Honor broke her wrist. I dislocated my shoulder and tore some tendons. Lydia's got a few bruises and scrapes, that's all. She's with a consultant now, talking to her about why she did it. My God, whispered Marcus. He kissed her forehead, her cheek. He stared at her face as if he couldn't believe she was there. What had he been doing all this time they were together? I knew she hadn't turned up for her exam, Marcus was saying, but I didn't think that she'd... I came right here as soon as I heard. He smoothed her hair back. Why did she do it, Jo? A nurse walked by. She didn't pay any attention to Jo and Marcus, but Jo extricated herself gently from Marcus's arms. She's broken up with her best friend, she said. And she's being bullied because she's gay. Marcus was still pale. How did I miss this? I missed it too. She said it was on Facebook. Jo took her phone from her pocket and called up Facebook. She's such a sensible girl that I haven't checked this for a long time. I should have. Lydia's page came up and Jo gasped. The comments, over and over, some from children that Jo recognised. Instinctively, she went to press the button to get rid of the website, but Marcus took the phone gently from her hands. He swore and dug his own phone out of his pocket and dialed a number. Ahmed, he said into it, I need you to go to Lydia Levinson's Facebook page and take a screenshot of it. Yes, in Year 11.
There are some comments that are going to be deleted soon, and we need to have a record of them. Thanks.
Jo's hands were shaking, and she was cold. I know those kids. They're children.
We'll delete the page, Marcus told her, but not till we've collected the evidence.
Come here. He led her to the hard chair and pulled up another beside it, lacing his fingers with hers on her uninjured side.
The school will get involved. Those kids will be punished. I'll make sure it happens, Jo. I promise you.
She never told me, Jo said, and all the tears that had stayed away while she'd been trying to save Lydia, while she'd been in the hospital trying to make sure everything was all right, welled up in her eyes. Marcus gave her a handkerchief, because he carried a clean handkerchief in the pocket of his trousers, because that was the sort of man who made her heart melt, the sort of man who she could fall in love with. He put his arm around her, being careful not to hurt her shoulder as she cried. She didn't let herself cry for long, because her daughter was behind that door, and she might come out at any time, with a doctor who had the power to decide whether Lydia was able to come back home or had to be admitted for psychiatric help. A doctor who might not approve of Jo having a younger boyfriend, who might point out that it was bad for Lydia's mental health. Just 2 minutes, tops, where the tears flowed from her eyes and she allowed herself to lean against Marcus, hear his breathing and feel the cotton of his shirt, the strong arm embracing her. Then she sat up and wiped her eyes and nose with his handkerchief and folded it. She looked upwards, at the styrofoam tiles of the ceiling, taking deep breaths to calm herself.
It's my fault, said Marcus.
What? He'd got some colour back, but his hair was messier than usual. He hadn't shaved. His shirt had a scorch mark near the collar.
I should have known. I saw her every day. And those kids, too. I saw all of them. I saw her run out of an exam yesterday. I'm her tutor. It's my job to notice, and I didn't.
No, she said, it's my job to notice. I'm her mother. I've been too busy.
You've got 2 other children, said Marcus. But I've been too distracted. Every time I saw Lydia, I couldn't help thinking about... So I never really pressed her. Never really talked. And then yesterday, when she accused me, I was shocked. I had no idea she knew about us. If I'd been paying more attention, we shouldn't have done it. We should have stayed away from each other. I know. It would have been wiser to wait, maybe.
He squeezed her hand and ran his thumb over the back of it.
We shouldn't have done it at all.
His thumb stilled.
Jo?
I can't do this. She swallowed, tasting the tears that she hadn't yet shed.
I can't be so selfish. I can't think of myself instead of my children. I was too busy having an affair with you to notice what was happening with Lydia. I can't do it, Marcus. I have to stop now. You don't mean...
It was fun, she said firmly, but it has to be over now. She attempted a smile. He took his hand away from hers.
It was fun, he repeated. After this, all that's just happened. That's what you think it's been between us.
No, I'm in love with you, and that's even worse. Because if I'm in love with you and you're in love with me, we have to change everything about our lives to be together, and I've got enough changes to deal with right now. I have to concentrate on my children.
She nodded.
It's what we were both after, wasn't it? We knew it couldn't be anything else.
Marcus stood up.
So why am I here? Because you're a nice person? A good neighbour? Lydia's tutor?
And someone you had fun with?
He wasn't disguising the anger in his voice.
This is why you haven't been returning my calls.
I haven't been returning your calls because I've been worrying about Lydia.
So have I. But you're not part of your life. A bit of fun, nothing compared to your first husband, the hero. I get it loud and clear. I should have been listening before. He shoved his hands into his pockets. I'll be off then. Ring me if you need anything. I'll help you in any way I can. But I won't hold my breath.
The door of the consulting room opened, and the doctor stepped out. Mrs. Levinson? Merrifield, said Jo. Yes. She stood up, peering past the doctor's shoulder to where Lydia sat in a chair, her hands clasped between her knees. Marcus hesitated, and then he turned and left. Jo fought not to glance at him. Inside the consulting room, Lydia reached her hand out to her mother. Jo sat close to her, in an echo of the pose she'd just sat in with Marcus. "I've had a good chat with Lydia," said the doctor, sitting in her own chair, "and I'm satisfied that she knows exactly how serious this attempt was. However, she tells me that she had decided not to go through with it before the police intervened." "Yes," said Jo. She searched Lydia's face. "Yes?" Lydia nodded. "She tells me this is at least partly in response to bullying at school and online. The school knows about it. They've promised to help." She felt Lydia scrutinising her, the same way Jo had just scrutinised Lydia, and she turned to her and smiled. Incredible how she could smile now. "Here. We're all going to help. I'm not going to get distracted, Lydia. I'm going to be there. My experience is that she'll need significant support at home, and she'll get it. You'll get it, Lydia. Your grandmother and I will give you everything you need. We love you, and we want you to come home." "I want to come home," said Lydia, and her voice was so small and vulnerable that Jo gathered her up in her arms, ignoring the pain from her shoulder. "Nothing," she whispered fiercely. "Nothing is more important than you." Chapter 44. Lydia. Being home was weird. She felt like she'd been away for much longer than a few hours. She kept on walking around touching things. Oscar and Irie's toys, the vase of flowers on the kitchen island, the soft face of her childhood teddy bear. Thinking that she might not have been able to touch any of this again. She might have been gone, nothing more than an absence. Oscar and Irie were at their dad's for a few days, but it felt as if they were going to be back any minute. Oscar's wellies had toppled over by the front door, and Iris's beaker sat on the draining board. Lydia ran her finger over the marks Iris had made in indelible marker on the tablecloth. If she'd jumped, would it have felt this way for the people she left behind, as if she were about to come back? She remembered it feeling that way when Dad had died. It was the reason she'd waited for the post and spirited away the letters. She'd been angry as a child at Jo for clearing Dad's stuff away, getting rid of his clothes, his books, his shoes by the door. But picturing herself in her father's place, she started to understand the reason for it. That brief moment of hope when you saw something that belonged to your dead loved one, that split second of believing they were still there, must be the worst torture in the world. She wore pyjamas and slippers, as if she were ill. She kept on hugging her mum all the time, even when her mum was in the middle of something, making tea or whatever. She was taller than her mother. She'd never even noticed it happening, growing taller than her mother. But she ducked her head under Jo's chin as if she was still a little girl, and inhaled her scent of rose perfume. She kept curling up on the sofa with Honor as well. Honor was bony, and you had to be careful of her broken wrist. But she touched Lydia's face and hair and hands in a way that made Lydia feel understood. It was Honor's way of seeing. "Why didn't you tell us you were blind?" she asked her grandmother. Her fingers trailed over Lydia's mouth and chin. "I was afraid that admitting it would change everything. I would no longer be allowed to remain in my home. I would be seen as useless and vulnerable. And I was ashamed." She tilted Lydia's face towards hers. Lydia could see now that Granny H's eyes moved too much, that she was looking out of the sides rather than the centre, looking at parts of things instead of wholes. She thought it was diffidence before. It was sort of amazing how knowing one simple fact about a person could change your entire perspective of what they were like. "Did you feel that way?" Granny H asked her. "About how you are? Ashamed? Afraid? Sometimes. But now it's the truth that's important." Honor lowered her voice. "Except about those flapjacks your mother made this morning. I had to hide mine under a cushion before it broke all my teeth." "Mostly I felt alone," confessed Lydia. "All alone. Even when I was with other people. Yes, loneliness is powerful and terrible." She nodded against her grandmother's meagre shoulder, feeling her fingers seeing her. Said, "I'll read to you. You must miss reading. We shall have to teach you Russian." Now that she was without the mask she'd worn for so many years, she felt raw and delicate, like newly formed skin. But clean, in a way. She thought of the things that had been said to her. And they still hurt, but it was at a distance almost. It was like the idea of exams going on without her. Something that belonged to a different girl. A different life. Somewhere far away from this house with her mother and her grandmother and her. Those moments on the bridge had been more real. She would have to go out into the world without her mask soon. Not yet, but soon. She'd stand up straight, like Granny Honor did. She'd believe that things would get better, like Mum did. And yet the ache for Avril didn't go away. It stayed with her all the time. Sometimes it melted into the background, but mostly it was a sharp knife in her middle. The person she had lost. The person she was never getting back. Chapter 45. Joe. 2 days passed in the sort of slow and fast motion that Joe remembered from having a newborn in the house. Lydia seemed to be sleeping a lot, mostly on the sofa under a blanket. Honor and Joe crept around her when she slept, and when she was awake, they held her and talked with her. About everyday things, normal things, but sometimes about things that mattered. Sometimes they just watched television. Sarah came round the first afternoon with an enormous takeaway curry and 2 bottles of white wine, which she put straight into Joe's fridge. "I can't cook for shit, not compared with you," she said, "but I can use a telephone, and you need to eat." "Sarah," Joe began, and then she faltered. "I haven't told you everything." "OK," said Sarah. "You will. Later. Right now, look after your daughter. And yourself. And don't forget to eat." She hugged Joe before she left, and sent Bob round after work to cut Joe's lawn. When Joe held Lydia, she felt calm, with a sense of purpose. At other times, she drifted around the house and tried not to think. She missed Oscar and Iris, even though their absence was only temporary. Her body craved their little bodies, their wriggling and their scent and their high voices. She missed Marcus. She found herself standing at her kitchen sink, looking over at his house through the gap in the hedge. She tended the sweet peas he had given her, removing dead heads, trimming the stems, replacing the water. They would fade very soon, and so would this feeling. So would the memory of his hands on her. His clothes discarded on the floor, the cups of tea he had brought her in bed, every one of which he made sure she would drink right to the bottom. The way he looked at her and made her heart sing. "You'll stay with us," she said to Honor in a hushed voice, when Lydia had drifted off whilst watching EastEnders. "As long as you like. And that's an order, not a request. I know you love your own house, but you always have a home with us here." Honor nodded curtly, but a compression of her lips revealed that she understood what Joe was saying, and how much she meant it. How long are you going to torture yourself? She asked, instead of replying to Joe. I'm not torturing myself. Joe got up and went to put on the kettle. Honor followed her. She needs a mother, not a martyr or a saint. I'm pretty far from a saint. Joe turned, folding her arms. Is that why you suddenly offered to babysit, by the way? Because you knew I was seeing someone? At first, that's why I offered. Then I started to enjoy it. And you weren't concerned about being in charge of children without being able to see? I was concerned. Especially after our trip on the scooter. You drove them on the scooter? Only once. This is what I mean. I didn't even notice that I was leaving my children with a blind woman, which, by the way, Honor, was not a good idea at all. I know. It was a mistake. I make them on occasion. You are a piece of work, Honor Levinson. Joe couldn't help smiling when she said it. And you are making yourself needlessly unhappy, Joanna Merrifield. You can be a mother and be a woman as well. Though I never seem to achieve it myself. No, not now. My children need me. Talk to me again when you haven't had sex in 45 years, said Honor. And tell me then whether you think you've made the right decision. She coaxed Lydia out for a walk on Saturday morning. In some ways it was lovely, having Lydia so dependent, but she knew it couldn't last. She watched as Lydia tilted her head up to soak in the sun, and she thought about her daughter going back to school, facing all those people. Lydia coming out as gay to everyone. Lydia living the rest of her life, fighting her battles, moving away, becoming an adult. Lydia would do it, because she was clever and beautiful and brave. And then Oscar would do it, fighting his own particular battles. And then Iris. They would all leave home, leave Joe behind. And that was exactly what should happen. The normal order of things. Joe would have to open her hands and let them fly. And what would she be left with then? Instead of following this line of thought, she walked with Lydia and asked her, How long have you known? I always knew I was different, said Lydia. And I knew I was in love with Avril from the moment I met her. Like me with your father. And like Marcus and me. Retrospectively, she could recognise that jolt she'd felt on first meeting him, that afternoon over the hedge. The way she'd been drawn to him in her kitchen. When she'd been 20, she'd called it love, and when she was 40, she called it desire. But it was the same feeling, different in a million little ways, but also the same. Except it won't have a happy ending, said Lydia. She's really angry with me, Mum. She thinks I lied to her. Maybe she's ashamed that she never noticed. I know that I am. I didn't want you to know. I mean, I did want you to know, and I got angry that you didn't guess, but it wasn't really your fault. I was working very hard to hide it. Keats Way was bathed in sunlight. The neat hedges, the gravel drives, the mowed lawns, all a perfect facade for the secrets that they had each hidden, all three women in that too new, blank and cluttered house. We have to tell the truth now, Joe said. Even if it hurts. We have to trust each other. Lydia nodded. That's why I left my diary for you to read. It might even be why I kept it in the first place. I wanted people to read it and understand me, but it was easier to write it than to say it. Mum? Yes, darling? That last bit I wrote, the bit about Dad, I read it. It's the anniversary tomorrow. 10 years. It was beautiful, what you wrote. I could see the love for your father shining through. Joe took Lydia's hand. He suffered from depression. He never let you see it when he was alive, and I never told you about it after he was gone. It wasn't his fault, and it didn't mean he loved us any less. In fact, I think it meant that he loved us even more. I didn't know. I should have told you. I only shared the good parts. But you deserve to know the bad parts, too. I think what I wrote was wrong. That's one thing I was thinking about when I was up on the bridge, before you came. I said that he wasn't afraid, because I needed him not to have been afraid. But he must have been. He was afraid for the other man, for Adam, not for himself. But when he fell, he must have been scared. Weren't you scared when you almost fell? Jo stopped walking and closed her eyes. For 10 years she had been trying not to think of that moment of terror, Stephen's last moment, the moment of falling. In daylight hours she had thought instead of moving on, of loving him and remembering him, of celebrating the life he had saved. She baked cakes for Adam every year, raised Lydia every day. She saw Stephen's features on his daughter. But at night, she thought of the scream he must have birthed, the air torn from his throat, the rush of the ground, the knowledge that this was over. His life was over. His black hole claiming him at last. When she had nearly fallen, she had looked up, not down. She had thought of Lydia, and of Oscar, and of Iris. She had thought of Marcus, yes, him too. She had thought of Stephen, and honour. Not the ending, not the life over, but the love that was forever. I knew that you would catch me, she said to her daughter. Chapter 46. Lydia. They were on their way back from their walk, laughing about something that Oscar had said on the phone the night before, his sudden obsession with giant space ants, when Lydia saw her walking towards them. She was in shorts and a sweatshirt, sunglasses pushed up onto her head, and she was carrying a plastic cup with a straw in it. Lydia's heart made a great thump, and she stopped walking. Avril walked faster until she met them. "Hi, Lids," she said, her cheeks flushed. I just came from your house. Your Gran said you weren't home." "Hi, Mrs. M." "Gosh, did you hurt your arm?" "Hi, Avril," said Mum, and she touched Lydia on the elbow. "I'll go in and get that banana bread started." And she left the two of them together, on the pavement in the sunshine, looking at each other, almost as if they'd just met for the first time. "She's been baking like crazy," Lydia told Avril. "And her friend brought round all this curry. If I don't start running again soon, I'm going to need that stupid calorie-counting app." "I brought you a frappuccino," said Avril, holding out the cup. "I didn't know what else—" "Did you really try to throw yourself off that bridge?" "Really? The same one where your dad fell?" Lydia shrugged. "Yeah. I didn't, though." She took the cup from Avril, being careful not to touch her fingers, and sipped through the straw. It was mocha, her favourite. "Do you want to go to the park?" The two of them walked side by side around the corner and into the park. Without needing to speak, they turned left and walked up the slight hill, ignoring the winding path and going straight to the top. Lydia dropped onto the bench and Avril sat beside her. This was the spot where you could see nearly the whole park. The football pitch, the play park, the pond where the little kids liked to feed the ducks. It was where they had always sat on a Saturday afternoon, and sometimes after school. "I'm sorry," Avril said. "I'm so sorry. I was angry with you, but not about... I don't care if you're gay. I don't care who you fancy. I was just angry because you didn't tell me. I didn't think you would... I didn't know it would get so bad. We go to school with some real dickheads. Lids, they are awful. I told everyone I saw to shut up, and Harry is doing it too. School have been calling people's parents. Erin's and Sophie's. Darren's already been suspended, though there doesn't seem much point, seeing as we're only going in for exams. What are you going to do about exams? We're not sure yet. Mum's going in to talk with them on Monday. Maybe I can take them somewhere else and make the rest up in January. I miss you, said Avril. I miss you a lot. I've been trying to ring you for days. My phone's turned off. Yes, I should have come before, but you didn't know what to say to your friend who had tried to pitch herself off a bridge. It's okay. I don't think I'd know what to say either. Why'd you do it, Lydia? Was it them? Was it me? Was it because I was so angry with you? Because me and Harry were spending so much time together and you were lonely? Was it because Bailey didn't fancy you? It was a lot of things. It wasn't Bailey. Bailey is a cow. I don't want to jump off a bridge any more. Good. Lydia drank her mocha. Usually Avril would have asked her for a sip by now, and ended up drinking half of it. She wasn't sure if she was letting Lydia have it all because it had been a peace offering, or because of what Avril now knew about Lydia. Like it was too close to kissing to share the same straw. She thought of all the guilty times when she had savoured this kind of kiss by proxy. All the stolen glances and touches, all the secret feelings, that precious part of herself that she had been hiding from the person she loved most in the world. So we're friends again? Asked Avril. Yeah. And if you find a girlfriend who's not a cow, maybe we can have double dates together. Maybe. Though probably not. There's not much choice around here. If you want to go to college instead of staying at school for A-levels, I'll do that with you. I asked my mum and she said I could. What about Harry? Harry might anyway. Avril blushed. I know you don't like him, but he did stand up for you, Lids. Afterwards. He really did, and I didn't even ask him. Lydia nodded. She pulled her knees up to her chest on the bench and rested her chin on one of them. There was a group of boys playing football on the pitch, and some girls chatting near the pond. They were too far away to recognise. They were just normal people doing normal things. Sitting up here, she could almost picture herself rejoining them one day. It'll be good not to hide, she said. It was pretty tiring. Do you? Avril bit her lip. OK, I'm only going to ask you this once, because it's sort of weird, and you don't even have to answer me if you don't want to. But you're my best friend, so I have to know. But after that, Avril just sat there, watching the boys playing football. They could hear them shouting good-natured abuse to each other. Lydia felt a burning in her chest. She knew why Avril couldn't say it. This was the moment she'd been thinking about for almost as long as she'd known Avril. The moment where she was supposed to open her heart and let the truth shine out. Where she was supposed to be brave enough not to care about the consequences. Where she was supposed to wait, holding her breath and hoping for the answer that would make her happy, rather than the answer that she knew was the truth. Her mother had said it was the time to trust. The time to be truthful to each other and let love sort everything out. But there were all those other moments with Avril. Not the ones where Lydia was silently wanting, where she yearned to touch but couldn't. There were the moments of laughing together, or watching a television programme in separate houses while they were texting to each other, throwing Maltesers into each other's mouths and missing. The moment where Avril had asked Lydia to walk into school with her that first day because both of them were invisible, and visible in the wrong sort of ways, because both of them wanted to be normal and be liked. Those moments were truth too. And they were precious enough not to be lost to another kind of truth. No, you're not my type, she said to Avril. And when she smiled at her, it was mostly a real smile. One that would become more real as time went on. Because she was beginning to discover that there was a sort of freedom in hopelessness. It let you look for other, new things to hope for. Chapter 47. Lydia. After Avril had gone home to revise, Lydia walked around the corner to her house. She sped up when she saw the postman, out of instinct almost, and intercepted him before he turned into her drive. He gave her a small bundle of post, circulars and bills. "Nice day for it," he said to her, and walked off on the rest of his round. Lydia put the bundle under her arm. Mum was on her knees in the flower bed near the front door, weeding with her good hand. She glanced up, and Lydia knew that she'd been watching out for her. "You shouldn't be doing that with your shoulder," Lydia said. She held out the post, and her mother shook her head, dirty hands. "Anyway, I wanted to get this done before Richard brings Oscar and Iris back tomorrow. How did it go with Avril?" She wiped hair away from her forehead, leaving a smear of soil. "Yeah, we're friends." Her mother studied her. "It's okay," Lydia said. "I mean, it's not okay, but I'd rather have her as a friend than not having her at all." "Are you sure she isn't?" "No, Mum, she isn't. You really have no gaydar whatsoever, do you?" Mum laughed, but then she caught sight of something behind Lydia and she stopped. A violent blush rose on her cheeks. "Mum?" Lydia turned. She should have guessed it was Mr. Graham at the end of their drive. Mum scrambled to her feet. There were dark dirt patches on the knees of her jeans. Lydia looked back at Mr. Graham, and he was flushed too. God, like a couple of teenagers, how embarrassing. He hesitated. "I wondered if I could talk with Lydia." "Of course," said Mum, obviously trying really hard to be calm, and she went into the house, shutting the door a bit too firmly behind her. Lydia watched Mr. Graham watching her go. He had on a t-shirt and jeans. It was sort of weird to see him in normal person clothes. Also weird to see him looking at her mother that way. He cleared his throat and came up the drive. "It's partly an unofficial school visit. I wanted to see how you were doing and talk with you a bit about what you think you might want to do about your exams." "I haven't had much time to think about them." Lydia sat on the grass, laying the post beside her, and Mr. Graham joined her. He wasn't wearing his glasses, which made him look even less teacherish. "And that's absolutely fine. Your health is the most important thing. I thought you'd like to know that the school did have a look at the cache of your Facebook page before it was deleted, and several students have been suspended as a result. The ones in Year 11 will be taking their exams, but in a different part of the building. They'll be completely isolated from the rest of the school." Lydia nodded. As when Avril had told her, it didn't really give her any pleasure to know that people were being punished because of her. They deserved it, but she'd rather it hadn't happened at all. "I might go to the college next year." "Good idea. We can arrange for you to do some exams at the college now if you're up for it, but we can sort all that out on Monday when you come in with your mum. The thing that I wanted to tell you is that this isn't make or break, Lydia. You can catch up on all of these exams, and it is my personal priority to ensure that your future isn't affected because of this. I know you want to go to Oxbridge after A-levels, and though it might take a little more time for that to happen, I'll do everything I can to give you the best possible shot." She knew it was at least partly his guilt talking, but she could also tell that he meant what he said. "It happened to me," he added in a lower voice, "though I was younger than you, and I was bullied for a different reason, and it was boys who were picking on me, for being smaller than them, so it was a little bit more straightforward. But it was similar enough." "Oh. I should have noticed what was happening with you. I'm very sorry that I didn't. If it helps, it does get better, Lydia. Though you never forget it. If you're lucky, it can make you stronger." "Thanks," she said, not prepared for this shift of perspective from seeing Mr. Green, the teacher who smiled too much, to a person who'd suffered, who maybe wanted to be liked because he had spent too long without friends. What if everyone had something like this? A similar twist inside, a reason, a fear, even Erin. Darren, Bailey. What if it was all done, every bit of it, to connect, to be liked, not to fall through emptiness alone? She sat very still on the grass, feeling a bit dizzy with the thought of it. An entire universe inside every person, too huge to comprehend except in glimpses. The world so much larger than she had ever imagined. So much bigger than she had thought it could be when she balanced on the ledge of the bridge. Mr. Graham cleared his throat, bringing her back to here, in front of her house, sitting with her teacher, who was suddenly a human being.
I also...
He took a deep breath.
I also wanted to apologise for keeping secrets from you. And if I missed seeing something important because of the way I feel about your mother, I am truly sorry.
OK.
What happened between your mother and me has absolutely nothing to do with you. Nothing at all.
God, I hope not.
And I like her a lot. I don't know if she feels the same way about me.
Lydia grimaced. There were glimpses inside a person, and then there were glimpses.
That's sort of gross, actually. Because you don't like me, or because you don't think I'm good for her, or...
Because she's my mum. Would you like to think about your mum shagging the neighbour? My mum lives next door to 2 gay men and a goat.
But I take your point.
He sighed.
I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I don't think I can live up to your dad.
Nobody can, said Lydia. But the thing is, he's dead. That makes it even harder to live up to him.
Lydia, this might be a bit unusual, but I wanted to ask your permission to invite your mother out on a date.
You don't need my permission, she said, surprised.
I think I do. You're the most important thing to your mum right now, and that's the way it should be. I want to be part of her life, but I can't. I don't want to be, unless you're okay with it.
He held out his hands.
It would be all above board. No secrets. Dinner, a movie. Boring stuff.
He smiled wryly. Lydia considered him. He was all right. He tried too hard, but you couldn't hold that against him, especially once you knew why. He was better than Richard by a long shot. And the way her mother had actually blushed when she saw him, it was sort of sweet. And a little disgusting. But sweet. And didn't her mother have more inside her too? More than Lydia would have ever thought. Knock yourself out, she said. She's inside now. Probably taking a cake out of the oven. It might be a good time to ask. If she says no, she might feel obliged to feed you in compensation. She watched him go inside the house, and listened hard for any sounds of pots and pans being flung about. But there was nothing like that. All she could hear was a wood pigeon sighing, and the distant sound of crows, and the buzz of a hedge trimmer. Maybe, far away, a train. She turned over the envelopes that the postman had given her, remembering how she had used to wait for the post when she was a little girl, hoping for something exciting, or something she could put away and save for the day when she might be able to give it to her daddy. She remembered how she'd longed to read his letters aloud to him, and see the pleasure and surprise when he listened. It had been a magical wish, a wish that would never come true. But today had been a day of second chances. You never knew. Gas bill, credit card bill, a clothing catalogue, money off online shopping. At the bottom, made of tissuey thin paper, was a blue airmail envelope with a US stamp and a California postmark, addressed in a handwriting that she recognised. It was the same handwriting that had been on 8 carefully saved Christmas cards full of words of regret and love, which had been written to her father, but read aloud, years later, by his daughter, to her grandmother. It was addressed to Dr. Honor Levinson, Lydia let the rest of the post fall onto the grass. Holding the letter to her heart, she ran into the house to deliver it. That is the end of The Day of Second Chances. It was written by Julie Cohen and read by Gilly Bond. This has been an ISIS Audiobooks presentation. For further details of our extensive catalogue of unabridged audiobooks, please call our free phone number 0800 731 5637 or visit our website www.isis-publishing.co.uk.